One of the better-known castles in the Netherlands and featured in many television shows set in the Middle Ages is Muiderslot Castle. So it all started in 1280 when Count Floris V built this stone castle at the mouth of the Vecht River. He was put in command over an area of the Vecht River that was a trade route to Utrecht, an important trade town of that age. The castle was used to enforce a toll on traders. It's a relatively small castle, measuring only 32 by 35 meters with walls over 1.5 meters thick. Not to mention it's surrounded by a large moat.
The ducks are getting a little frisky. Is that not a cool castle? There's a path to walk around it.
So the story continues. In 1296, Gerard van Velsen conspired with Herman van Woerden, Gijsbrecht IV of Amstel, and several others to kidnap Floris V. The count was eventually imprisoned in Muiderslot Castle. After Floris V attempted to escape, Gerard personally killed the count on the 27th of June, 1296 by stabbing him over 20 times. The alleged cause of this conflict between the nobles was the rape of Gerard van Velsen's wife by Floris. In 1297, the castle was conquered by Wilhelm van Mechelen, an Archbishop of Utrecht, and by the year 1300, the castle was demolished. 100 years later, the castle was rebuilt on the same spot based on the same plan by Albert I, Duke of Bavaria, who at the time was also the Count of Holland and Zeeland. The next owner of the castle shows up in the 16th century when P.C. Hooft, an author, poet, and historian, took over the sheriff and bailiff duties of the area. For 39 years, he spent his summers in the castle and invited friends, scholars, poets, and painters. This group of people became known as the Muiderkring. At the end of the 18th century, the castle was first used as a prison, then abandoned and became derelict. Further neglect caused it to be offered for sale in 1825 for the purpose of it being demolished. Only intervention by King William I prevented this. Sorry, don't mind me. I just love castles. My favorite thing to do in Europe. Extensive restoration was done, and in 1878 it opened as a national museum, preserving both its medieval and golden age heritage.
Yeah, they got events
Chris,
here.
don't lift up the drawbridge, okay?
Prince's Chamber. Prince's bed. The bed was a sign of their wealth. Here, even a child's bed was a sign of luxury. That's how they swaddled the youngins back then. Double portrait of the swaddled twins. Fancy fireplace. Stove. So we got two different people who lived here in the castle. One of their offsprings, which has a medal around her neck of her father. And we are entering the Knights Hall. Lover's Garden. Hay table and money chest. And apparently that these benches in the windows were requested because they wanted to sit and look outside. A lot of these windows look into the courtyard of the castle. These tiles down here on the bottom. Another wood door. Pies, eel soup, hot pie, apple pie, or waffles. Tastiest meals were prepared in this kitchen, the great fireplace as its center. Here's a picture of a fisherman with the castle in the background. Another door behind this is real water well. The one in the courtyard was added later. Locked. Man, can't see. Rotisserie with a turning wheel. The pot hanging over the fire. Waffle irons. Oh, birds hanging, meat hanging. Here's some bread. The corner. Spices were literally worth their weight in gold, sometimes sold by the grain. That's why they were stored safely in a locked spice cabinet like this one. Only the lady of the castle had the key. Even the cook couldn't access it freely. Note the decoration on top. Oh, the spices were locked in here. In the corner. Still life with the pig. Still life with fish. Look at the sink. Still life with fruits. This is the dining room. A hearty breakfast was perfectly normal, as was drinking beer. Everyone did, even children, since clean drinking water is often unavailable. See the hook in the niche? When your beer jug was empty, you could lower it through the hatch in the brewery in the cellar. It would be refilled and hoisted back up. Box chair with canopy, the perfect chair for by the fireplace. Thanks to the wooden canopy, the heat stays around your body while you are less affected by drafts, so you're well protected. It's not comfortable, however, the seat is hard wooden box. A cushion would have been quite a luxury. And then there's a portrait of the castle up there. Box chairs.
That's a different castle up there. Like Muiderslot, Teylingen Castle was built to defend the country of Holland. It was attacked, destroyed, and rebuilt several times. Cheese. What's this room called? The East Tower.
Yep.
Overlooking his beloved gardens. Hoof spent hours at his desk writing poetry plays, hundreds of letters on everything from politics to love. He was 28 when he moved into Muiderslot in 1609. He endured great loss with the deaths of his young children, later his wife. Years later, joy returned when he married again, a widow with 2 children. Together, they had a son and daughter. He is one of the most important Dutch writers, often called the Dutch Shakespeare. He lived at Muiderslot until his death in 1647. It's a portrait of a couple. Family portrait. Oh, so this, here he is. He remarried the widow. She had 2 children, and then they had 2 together. And then here's a big portrait of the castle. In the 17th century, walls of Muiderslot were likely adorned with these valuable tapestries. They are called verdures, from the French word vert, green. The tapestry depicts a woodland landscape full of fruit and trees. In the bottom left, you can see a hunting dog with a duck in its mouth, a reference to hunting. Wow, you can see the castle right there. Tapestries were not only for decorative, but also helped to keep out the cold. And here's a portrait of Mr. Hooft, 61 years old, when this portrait was painted of him. The writing desk next to him, which was important. It is customary to relieve oneself in a small chamber, also referred to as the privy, which was built out of bricks against the exterior wall of a castle. At the time, there was no such thing as a flushing system. Therefore, the moat served as a primitive sewer in addition to providing protection from outside invaders. As a result, the moats were a breeding ground for bacteria, which in turn caused disease. When temperatures were below freezing, the waste was temporarily recovered with hay. Muiderslot has a total of 9 privies, 5 of which are visible. And there you have it, a castle privy. We are going to make our way up the tower route. Bridge master's quarters. The guards and protectors lived in this tower, the room from which you have a good view of the drawbridge for the bridge master. The stairs up in this room didn't
Used to be here originally. The enclosure above the walls could only be accessed via a narrow spiral staircase on the other side of the courtyard. That meant that the guards on the wall stayed out of the enemy's reach for as long as possible whenever the gate tower and castle square were being stormed. Oh, yep. There's the bridge. Oh. Little display of the castle. But this room, wall guards tower quarters. The opening in the tower wall are loopholes and embrasures. The double embrasure to the right of the chimney is something else. From here, the guards could take an eye out on the starting and ending points of the drawbridge. The scale model of the castle shows how the various sections of the medieval castle would operate. This is another privy. Yep. Go straight down into the moat. We're gonna go out here though. The castle center courtyard. Hey, gentlemen. Say hi. Open Sentry Walk. The open air corridor is known as an open sentry walk. You can see the town of Muiden and the Devect River in the gaps between the battlements. Merlons called embrasures. You can aim accurately with a bow and arrow because of the narrow embrasures. These are provided safety and protection when keeping watch from outside attacks. Whoa. It's one of the oldest castles in the Netherlands.
That was very pleasant.
And the gardens. The Herald Room. The Herald or King of Arms was an important person during the Middle Ages. He was an expert on the coat of arms, banners bearing the arms of Floris V, the nobleman who had the Muiderslot built are hanging on the wall. The stone walls in this room are medieval and date back to about the 1500s. The narrowly tapered recess inside the walls is an embrasure that could accommodate a handheld cannon. Gate Tower Sentry Walk. This tower above the gate was very important for defending the castle. The Muiderslot featured 3 murder holes above the gate that are unique in the Netherlands in terms of scope and size. The holes are located directly above the drawbridge. Stones and hot rubbish were thrown down on the enemy through the holes. Really? Above the gate that are unique. The holes are located directly above the drawbridge. Stone and hot rubbish were thrown down on the enemy. Okay.
Some of the work is done.
And I found the murder holes. 3 of them. Whoa. Right down on the drawbridge, it said. Coat of arms rooms. Go over here. This is the roofed-in sentry walk. The roofed-in sentry walk was reconstructed in the 19th century with a new covering, a new roof. Traces of the original roof can be seen on the walls. The old roof was lower and steeper, and there were no battlements here. These were built in the 19th century because of their romantic appearance. You can clearly see here that the brand new bricks were used on the interior. Yeah, right here you could tell a difference in the bricks. Old and new. On this side, old and new. This is marked off. Ooh, the chapel. Chapel this way.
Ja, ik voel me echt een noodzaak om iets meer diversiteit te doen. Ik zie namelijk gewoon dat de steeds meer gezegd.
Hundreds of golden stars against the blue sky. Here you find yourself standing directly beneath the heavens. People in the Middle Ages believed that the sky belonged to God and therefore the stars as well. There's nothing above this chapel because here you're closest to God. More castles have their own place of worship, the castle chapel. So in times of war, you can worship at home. And even if the castle is cut off from the outside world by floods, the Zuiderzee, or the rising waters of the Vecht, you can still go to church. Let's see what this says. It's glass now, but people once used pig bladders as windows. They kept out the cold and the wind. Well, never heard that before. Pig bladder for windows. Alright, continue on. Little narrow walkway. Description of the paintings. Child portrait. Elegant company. And of course, Muiderslot Castle. Look, a red toilet. The window. Oh, that's what that narrow walkway was. It was to a toilet, a privy. Exit. Ooh. Amsterdam. Did Chaplain live here in the Middle Ages? If he did, he would have looked after the chapel facility that was often located above the gate. This might explain why the room had a fireplace and a privy lavatory. Water helped to keep the enemies at bay. It also served as a convenient sewer. Garbage and human waste were deposited directly into the moat. That's why the moat was sometimes cleaned out, perhaps. Whoa. The dredged up slurry was used to fertilize the gardens. Toilet's a bit crooked. Well, at least you didn't have to go up and down a bunch of stairs to go to the bathroom. You seem to have had plenty of them throughout the castle. View the castle gardens from here. Came in through the other side. Muiderslot Castle is considered one of the best preserved medieval castles in the Netherlands. It displays iconic symbols of Dutch heritage with its classical square layout, moat, and towers that visitors can explore today, just as I did.